Hey there, folks. Mark Lewis here. Welcome to a casual Monday morning recording edition of Warehousing Wednesdays. And I wanted to just do a quick hit session on something that came up last Thursday that I thought this is a good one. I usually talk about warehouse management and the WMS side of things, and there'll be a little bit of that today. But I was down in Dallas for the WERC, the Warehouse Education Resource Council, best little warehousing show in Texas last Thursday. And by the way, side note, that's a great show. It's once a year, it's one day, inexpensive to go to. If you're in Texas or Oklahoma or someplace you don't mind driving 3 or 4 hours to get to, go down there and hit that show. It's great. If you're into warehousing, a little bit of warehouse management, anything like that, it's a day well spent, and it's a pretty low-hanging fruit, pretty cheap to get there, etc. I was down there, and I sat in on a session by St. Ange, Norm Sains, who has been on this podcast before, and I sat in on a session he did on how to get the most out of your warehouse. And it focused more on the hardware side, like how tall do you stack a rack, etc. But there was 1 or 2 slides in there that ended up turning into a fairly lively conversation. Just real quick today, we're going to hit these 2 slides and give you kind of my opinion on a couple of them. So the first slide is regarding best practices in storage equipment, basically rack types. And I could do an hour or more on just on this slide, but basically you have your selective racks, your double deeps, your drive-ins, your pushback, your pallet flow, and this is basically non-automation. We're talking about classic rack types. And the question specifically came up around FIFO, FIFO. How would you manage it, and how do you balance the cube utilization from selective rack all the way up to, say, deep drive-in? And you'll see those numbers above selective, double deep, and drive-in, the 41, 45, 61, 76. That is just inherently the max cube you can get, and I won't go into the calculations, but it's pretty easy to see the space taken up by the aisle in those. And so basically, if you set up single deep selective rack, 10 foot aisle, you can only use less than half, 45% of the cube of your warehouse is air, because you just need that for the equipment, things like that. If you go to double deep, same thing, 10-foot aisle. That, by the way, is not considering a narrow aisle truck or anything. That's still standard 10-foot aisle. You double that almost. You get to 61%. And then if you go to, as that example shows, say a 4 deep drive-in pallet rack, and that would be the same for a 4 deep pushback, you're going to get all the way up to, say, 76. And so you think, well, great, I should go to 76. I want as much as I can cram into this warehouse. The problem is, and this is where the discussion came in, how do you manage FIFO, FIFO, inventory turns? How do you minimize your actual cube utilization? Because if you can't control that, the deeper things get, you get a lot of honeycombing, you get a lot of real problems trying to use, say, a 4 deep drive-in. That's not a very good solution for most people. Double deep does seem to be one that people use a lot and have a lot of success with. So I made a statement that said, listen, just cut to the chase on this, and I think it's good. You can't use drive-in rack. You can't use 3 or 4 deep pushback without a WMS. And the reason is you can't control with enough flexibility, rules-driven flexibility with how things are picked and how things are put away. So we go to the next slide, we will look at the WMS impact on it. And that's the piece I think you need to sit down and have a conversation, whether that be with somebody like me or somebody like Norm at St. Ange. There were other consulting firms that were there at the event as well. But you just have a conversation like this with you. This is not a deep conversation. But when you add a WMS, One, you're going to get the item master with the weights and dims and everything. You're going to have slotting functionality within the WMS that's going to let you think about how fast things are moving, and you can then design your putaway rules and your picking rules to decide where you should be putting and picking that product from, based on whether it's an A item, a B item, a C item, and of course all the weights and dims, etc. And then you get the added replenishment functionality to get you in your forward pick zones. And I think very importantly, warehouse consolidation, because the best laid plans will go awry as you're running through the day, the week, the month, and you're going to end up with a lot of honeycombing, a lot of free space, and that's going to kill that theoretical cube that you've set up. So you run programs in the back to have the warehouse software do consolidation for you to keep it packed in, etc. If you have that, if you have a WMS, you can start looking and considering more than standard selective rack. Even running 2 deep pushback or 2 deep selective rack versus single can get you into a lot of trouble without some type of control system. So with that, wanted to close that for the day. I don't have an answer, but what I will say is if you're looking at your warehouse, you're thinking about looking at racking, you're thinking about doing a re-layout, and you want somebody to chat about with, give me a call. If you can't tell, I love talking about this, and or reach out to Norm Sains at St. Ange, who was nice enough to give me these 2 slides and let me reuse them here. That is a quick hit version of WMS Wednesdays, Warehousing Wednesdays, and I will talk to you all next week. Thanks a lot. See you all there.